What's up, guys? Welcome back to the askforSpeed channel. I'm Jason Speed, and I have had kind of a demand, if you will, a lot of requests for me to do reaction videos. They've been telling me about all these guys who do car buying tip videos, car buying advice videos, who don't necessarily give good advice. So I figured from someone who's in the industry, I've been doing this for 10 years, I'd take a look at some of these videos and just react to them and see if I think they're just spitting chat GPT facts out to you just to get a click on a view, or if they're actually giving sound advice. So this is my take on reacting to car buying videos. So let me search in here for car buying. I don't have anybody in particular car buying tips. Let's see. First search comes up. Questions to never answer on a car lot. Car buying tips. That's already hilarious. This has 4.2 million views. From Chevy Dude. So let's see if, I mean, he seems like he's from a dealership. If this is the Chevy Dude in the background with his hand sticking out, then maybe, you know, he actually works at a dealership. So let's click on this as and just see what he says. It's a 5-minute long video. Let's see.
By you answering these questions, I guarantee you're going to get ripped off on your next car purchase. Car salesmen are sneaky. They know all the best questions to ask you to get you to pay the highest profits. Car salesmen are also extremely smart, very well trained, and they practice the art of closing the deal every single day.
Okay, so the first thing I'll point out right away is that there's a very blanket statement about car guys or car salesmen being sneaky. Yes, we are trained in sales, as is every professional trained to do your job. Yes, we are trained in the art of negotiating or learn that sales is like psychology. Um, I don't want to seem defensive, but I don't want to put the blanket statement on saying that car salesmen are sneaky. I try to take the approach personally of consultant. If I have a vehicle that fits the budget and the checklist or the needs, if you will, of a customer, then by all means, great, we have a deal. If not, then they know that I'm a very no to low pressure salesperson and I let it go. So I don't like the blanket statement, but let's see if he actually spits some facts.
Share with you the questions to never answer on a car lot. And if you don't watch this entire video, it's only going to do one thing: cost you time, money, and major frustration. Hey, how are you? What brings you today? That is actually one question you definitely want to answer the salesman that you're going to have approach you, or you approach.
It's a bit exaggerated, but it's theatrical. Okay.
On the dealership lot. You want to get it out the gate right up front of why you are at the dealership. You want to know before you come here what your wants and needs are, what's your end game of car shop. So make sure you do answer the question of what brings you into the dealership. So I see you're looking at this Chevy Malibu Redline.
Yeah, it looks like a pretty nice car.
Absolutely. Is this something you're going to be paying cash for? You're financing, or a little bit of both?
Finance.
Oh, excellent. What kind of payment are you looking for?
I'd like to keep around $350 a month.
So there is a, how should I say it? A large majority of car salesmen that will right away go to what payment are you looking for? I try and find out more about your needs and wants in a vehicle. Great, you're looking at the Malibu. How do you normally use your car? How many seatbelts do you need? You know, what kind of features are you looking for? A sunroof, or do you like what different colors? Obviously, she's looking at that specific one, so I would try to probably tailor my questions towards what about this car information wise that I can send to her, or just to even make sense, see if it makes sense for her to ask questions about this car. But I don't know if asking for a payment is the right approach for a customer, because most customers don't know what kind of payment they want. If you have a budget set out for yourself, you should, before you go car shopping, have a budget set out for yourself of what you'd want to pay monthly for a car payment. See if you can figure out kind of what fits into that budget range. Now, generally, and there's different variations of how you can manipulate this, generally, every $10,000 you finance is about a $200 payment. Now, again, there's different ways you can fluctuate that between longer term, between more money down, difference in rates, how it affects if you have better credit or not so good credit. There's different ways that that payment would fluctuate, but just as a general rule of averages, every $200, every $10,000 you finance is about a $200 payment. So just keep that in mind.
That's actually two questions in one, but they're always asked at the same time, and you never want to answer that question on the lot.
Tell me why, sleazy car salesman.
Sleazy car salesman, what? So as I've talked to you guys in the past, you never want to walk into a dealership and let them know that you're financing or paying cash. If that question is asked, just sit there and like, hey, haven't made up my mind yet. I haven't decided yet. The reason you don't want to talk about payment is because they're going to land you on a car that gets you and maximizes the monthly payment, so that way they can maximize their profit. Hey, that's absolutely perfect. I'm glad to hear that. What type of...
That is the absolute approach that most car salesmen will take. If you get into a situation where you're talking about payments within the first couple of minutes of talking to someone, then they might be taking the approach of maximizing whatever payment that is, or even trying to tier bump you on a payment, make you pay higher than what you originally said you wanted to pay. Car salesmen typically have this belief. I would say most car salesmen have this belief that buyers are liars. So what you are telling them as a car salesman is not the actual payment that you want to be in, and you can actually afford more. I typically if you tell me that you're trying to be at a $200 payment, okay, then we need to find a car that we need to finance $10,000, right? So there's no way you're going to get a $15,000 into that. There's no financing term long enough to fit a $15,000 into a $200 payment. That's a $300 payment, right? So it's just a matter of figuring out payment wise. If you have somebody who's on payment, I just try and figure it out with them. The payment's going to be up to the bank. It's up to us to present it to the right way, how the bank wants to approve it, but I never like to focus on just that being the payment. But we'll see what he says. So far, he's actually like giving really, really good advice. And again, it seems like he works at the dealership, so this is coming from more of an internal perspective than an external, someone who doesn't know anything about the car dealership or the way cars are sold or the way cars are even bought, just getting on a video to have a video. So that's what he says.
credit do you got?
Not really sure, but my husband's credit's good.
So that right there was a perfect scenario of a car salesman, as Mr. Chevy Dude says, sleazy car salesman, asking you qualifying questions on the lot. The reason car salesmen ask that questions because two things happen there. One, they're pre-qualifying you to figure out how to work their car deal. Yes, I said their car deal, not your car deal. They're in control. Again, remember, they're the professionals. They do this every day. We as consumers do this every 4 to 5 years. Two, they also pre-qualify to see who the real buyer is. In this scenario, Mrs. is here, husband's not. Husband's the real buyer because he's got the credit. So you don't answer those questions, so that way they can't pre-qualify you or prejudge you on a car deal.
I would say that's true. I would say that if you're going to a dealership and you have someone who, just like that, the sleazy car salesman, who is asking those questions right away, you probably don't want to get into answer them, because people don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. That's one thing I've learned. So I try and take the approach: is this a car that you even like? Even if you have bad credit and you're coming in on a specific car and you need approval, okay, you don't want me to run your credit, and send it to however many banks it takes to get an approval for you to just turn around and say you don't like the car, right? Now, if it's something that you need an approval, then yeah, take a car that matches your needs, but I at least try and take the approach of making sure that you like the car, that you're going to enjoy driving it, because this is going to be the car that's going to fix your credit, right? So if you talk to a car salesman on the lot who's doing what we know as we've been trained as a needs analysis. Now, needs analysis is not aimed to allow us to shape the car deal in the sense of our favor. I try to use the needs analysis to gain information from you to save you time, so they're not looking at unnecessary cars on your checklist that won't fit the bill of what you're trying to accomplish. That's the purpose of my needs analysis, not to say, hey, I can afford this. What's the car on the lot that has the most profit that I can sell that will get me to match what they're looking for, or even potentially have them bump a payment because I think they can pay higher. No, I don't try and take that approach at all. I just trying to use it as a tool to save time for the consumer. It's not look at 12 different cars just to try to find the right one. Okay. So, but there's a right time for it. There's not going to be one of the first questions that come out my mouth when you come into my lot. It's going to be something that is, once we've spent some time together and I have an understanding of what you're looking for, then those questions come arouse. I don't typically don't even ask those questions until after a test drive. But just to make sure that I'm shaping everything the right way, I will ask those questions when the time is right.
That all sounds perfect. This is a pretty pricey car, so it's going to take a substantial amount of money down to get to 350. So how much money are you planning on putting down?
Maybe 500.
So
I will say this. There is not a salesperson in the world that can predetermine how much you would need down. That is going to be up to the lender. The lender is the one loaning you the money, not the salesperson, right? So people ask me all the time, how much would it take for me to put down to get into this car? I don't know. That's going to be up to a lender, but I'm happy to present this deal to a lender the best way we can so that we can get an approval. Okay. There's not a salesperson in the world that can predict what the bank will make you put down. You can guess all you want, but it's going to be a lottery ticket. You can take a guess. Typically in this situation, historically, people have put around $5,000 down in similar situations that you are. Okay. So that's not to say the bank will look at your credit and require $5,000 down. More than likely, sure. But they might look at it and say, we'll do it with $1,000 down, or whatever it takes to be in an equitable position for that car. And I'll try and touch on that a little bit later as far as being equitable. But I'll hear what Chevy guy has to say first.
Again, this is a pre-qualifying question because now they need to figure out how to work their deal, not your deal, right? So if you have no money down, Mrs. Chevy Dude's being goofy and saying only $500 down, but that's a real scenario that happens on the car lot every single day. So if you can't get to 350 on this brand new Malibu, what do you think a car salesman is going to do? They're going to take control of their deal and take you to a car that can get you to 350 per month. Hey, that all sounds good. Do you have anything that you're going to trade in?
I think so. My husband doesn't know it yet, but we're going to get rid of his 2020 Corvette.
Oh, man. Okay. Okay.
So this is the vehicle you're trading in?
Oh,
all right,
so
sweet.
nice.
What's it worth? What are you trying to get out of it?
My husband told me he paid $50,000 for it, so I can get my money back out of it.
Excellent.
Yes. Don't, again, if you have a salesperson who's asking questions like this scenario, this is obviously an illustrated scenario, but if if a salesperson asking these questions, get out, because you're about to get your head ripped off. So obviously that's a super nice car, and I love the Simpsons illustration, but that's a super nice car. What you pay for a car has no bearing on what it's worth, right? Unless you've done some actual research on car values, not KBB, because KBB does not buy cars. Kelley Blue Book is a generic starting point, kind of like Credit Karma. It's a generic starting point for general values of what that car could be worth. KBB says my car's worth this. Great. A trained salesperson's response to that is not to run to their sales manager and say, can we give them this for their car? No. KBB doesn't buy cars, and the market is individual even per dealership. Okay. At AutoNation USA, we are a pre-owned store in Wesley Chapel. We're right by the Premium Outlet Mall, the Tampa Premium Outlet Mall. And 2 miles down the street is a Mercedes dealership. So cars that they might take in on trade might fit for our lot, and cars that we take in on trade might fit for their lot. So what you have paid for your car has no bearing on what your car is worth, ever. Never has any bearing on what your car is worth. You might have overpaid for your car. You might have underpaid for your car. In this situation, you have a pretty nice looking Corvette that looks like it's got some modifications. $50,000. Okay, it's probably worth 80 or 90. So yeah, I can get you $50,000, no problem, right? Unless you have some, never go to the dealership without knowing, if you have a trade, without knowing what your potential value is worth. Call CarMax, call Carvana, get some we'll buy your car. Go to another dealership. We'll buy your car bids for what this car might be worth. Now, in doing that, be prepared that even the dealership that you're trading that car into or selling the car to that number could be different because the individual market for that specific dealership, right? So if we take in a brand new Corvette that's got some modification to it, very low miles, it could be worth a lot more down the street at my Mercedes store, just because that market, they can have people pay that market. Well, we typically don't have people coming in spending $100,000 for cars, right? So it's got to make sense for the market for that specific dealership, that local market.
Car salesmen will always try this technique with you. It's called trying you on. So basically what we just demonstrated there was we tried you on by seeing what you think your car is worth. We made a little funny there saying that this car is worth $50,000, but that type of scenario happens all the time. Two things happen here in the car salesman mind. One, if you sit there and undervalue your trade-in, they're absolutely ecstatic. They think they can steal your car from you.
Yeah.
But if you overvalue your trade, now they're going to be like, well, where'd you come up with that dollar amount? What research have you done with there? Well, Kelly Blue Book doesn't buy cars. NADA is always high. They're always going to start throwing out curveballs to get you off your game. Now, there is a time and a place that you do need to answer those questions. It's not on the car lot. I always love teaching people this analogy. If you see somebody that you're attracted to and you walk up to them and introduce yourself for the first time, you don't put your hand out, introduce yourself and say, will you marry me?
Right.
Use that analogy when you're out car shopping. You have to answer these questions. The best time to answer these questions is when you're ready to make a purchase, when all parties are present, when your trade-in's here, and most importantly, when the salesman is ready to present you with the numbers so that way you can make a well-informed decision. So yes, you do need to answer these questions, but at the right time.
Good job, Chevy guy. Chevy Dude. Sorry, Chevy Dude. Great. That's coming from someone who is in the industry, who does this every single day, who can teach you how to spot someone who is not doing this for your benefit or to be a consultant for you. They're being this for their own pocket. Now, granted, I do sell cars for profit, for providing for my family, and every dollar that I discount the car is 25 cents that comes out of my pocket, right? But with that being said, I don't do it because I know what my end dollar is going to be. I never look at the end dollar on any deal. I do it to be a consultant, to put you in a good car, reliable car, that's going to meet the needs and some of your wants, if not all of your wants, and fit within your budget. Chevy Guy did a great job of illustrating when and when not to answer those questions and right on the lot. So kudos to Chevy. I keep calling him Chevy Guy, Chevy Dude. And if you guys would like to see more reaction videos, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video.